So, right now, schools all over the world are struggling to respond to AI. Some schools might add new language to their handbook, or buy expensive AI powered education technology, or run a training session for their faculty. But as you're about to learn, none of those things are truly a sufficient response. We take what's called a systems approach. What that means is that we work across the school community to create change. We work with school staff to automate their most time consuming and repetitive tasks. We empower students interested in using AI tools to supercharge their passions. And we focus our professional development efforts on AI ethics, safety, and authentic assessment. Our synergistic approach scores quick wins for the school, gives you compelling stories to tell, and sets the stage for deep and durable change. AI is an emotional issue for many teachers, and there are many who are fearful and resistant to it. That means that as school leaders who are interested in leveraging AI, your job will be to focus on your community and not just your technology. My team have been to more than a dozen schools in the last 6 months, talking about AI, working with faculties, and consulting school leaders. So I'd like to start by sharing with you the situation that we're seeing on the ground. This is the status quo that we're faced with. On the faculty side, the surveys that my team does and that larger organizations do suggest that about 30 to 50% of faculty, at least right now, are resistant or highly resistant to the use of AI in schools. This is especially true in humanities departments. It's not the case that teachers fear change. Teachers fear the loss that can sometimes accompany change. That could be loss of autonomy, loss of confidence, loss of their sense of purpose, loss of their sense of routine. When you're dealing with the anxiety that teachers are feeling around AI, this is the subtext. This is what they're actually feeling. It's not a fear of change itself. With that said, there is a lot of change fatigue in schools right now. Teachers are still in a post-pandemic sense of unease. During the pandemic, teachers had to onboard into a lot of education technology very quickly. That didn't always go smoothly. There is, I think, rightfully, a lot of suspicion of education technology, which has sometimes overpromised and underdelivered, especially over the last few years. So teachers are tired, and they're overextended, and there's real wisdom in their feelings of resistance. At least in the United States, most independent schools are only doing 2 to 4 days per year of all faculty professional development. It's not possible to teach AI literacy or to change strong feelings about AI in a single professional development session. It may be a good start, but AI is not a box to be checked. And unlike other policies that you have at your school, this is a policy you're going to have to continually iterate on because the technology is changing so fast. So while professional development is great, the amount of time that we allocate to professional development really isn't sufficient for addressing this set of issues. On the staff side, school staff get even less development and less attention typically than faculty do. What's interesting is that when we survey staff at different schools, we're finding repeatedly that staff are spending tens of hours per month in some cases on tasks that are repetitive, mundane, time consuming, involve moving information from one place to another. These are things that could be automated, and we'll talk later in the session about what automation is and the role it can play in schools. On the leadership side, most school leaders that I talk to are still pretty unfamiliar with the challenges and opportunities of AI. It's not their main focus, and they tend to be entirely unfamiliar with automation. Much of what school leaders do is they plan, they forecast, but the pace of technological change around AI has made it really difficult to forecast for any meaningful amount of time. So the bottom line is that school leaders are struggling to plan around AI. And lastly, the student side. These are some of the anxieties I hear from students. Students worry about policies that vary from class to class, the lack of consistency. This is an interesting one and unfortunately kind of a sad one. The number one use case for Gen Z using AI is not cheating. It's therapy. They're using it to talk about issues they feel embarrassed to talk about. If you look at the statistics for depression and anxiety in Gen Z, this actually shouldn't be surprising. But there's a bit of a disconnect between how adults assume students are using AI and how they're actually using it. Students are also fearful that the educational products they've gotten very good at creating, like the 5-paragraph essay or the factual recall traditional assessment, are becoming irrelevant, and they're not quite sure what the future looks like or what the future skills are that they're going to need. So, this is the complication. This is where the urgency comes from. The amount of computational power that's being committed to these AI models is 10xing every year. What that means is that the AI we're going to be interacting with in 3 years is going to have 1,000 times more computational power committed to it. We are at the beginning of an exponential curve. Nothing in our human evolution prepares us to think exponentially. There was nothing on the Serengeti that was exponential. So we're not really great at thinking about exponential problems. That doesn't mean we need to thoughtlessly rush to adopt AI into every facet of our school community. That's pretty clearly not the right approach. But I would argue, too, that a let's wait and see kind of approach is also not going to work. So that brings us to our question. This is what we're going to be answering here in this course. What can school leaders do today to be ready for tomorrow? And here are the 3 pieces that I would suggest to you are the answer to this question. The first is, when you do AI training at your school, you should focus on ethics, safety, and authentic assessment. The second is not to manage change, but to lead change, and I'll talk about the difference. The third piece is to start automating staff tasks and to use these quick wins as narratives that you tell in your school community. So this first piece, why ethics and safety? Why is this so important? Well, every governmental organization all over the world that studied carefully how to integrate AI into schools has come to the same conclusion, which is that until people understand the ethical challenges and the safety challenges around using AI, they're really not ready to be using AI tools. Ethics and safety are a prerequisite for AI. The second piece is authentic assessment. What do we mean when we say authentic assessment? Well, authentic assessment is in contrast with traditional assessment. It means we're not thinking about learning as a single product, but as a process. Students have more agency and autonomy to decide the medium through which they will demonstrate their learning. They're given space to talk about what their work meant to them. They're given formative feedback that guides their future performance. They link the work they're doing with questions they want to answer, problems they want to solve, and parts of their own identity they want to express. It's really important that we make this transition to authentic assessment for 2 reasons. The first is that AI is less able to replicate process than it is product. If learning is just a product, AI can do that. What it can't do, at least not yet, is the messy, kinetic, collaborative, real-world application that comes with authentic assessment. The second reason is that when students find their work meaningful, they'll be less likely to want to cheat. I'm guessing a lot of the conversations that are happening in your schools around AI are probably framed largely around cheating. But if we make this move towards authentic assessment, it makes the cheating conversation a little less relevant. The second answer is about leading and supporting change, not just managing change. So here's the first thing I would suggest to you. There is already change happening at your school. Your job is to find it and support it, to talk to that early adopter crowd who are already doing incredible things, and ask them questions, give them resources, give them the space to tell the story of what they're doing to the rest of your school community. Those can be the kind of quick win narratives that can create the momentum for change in a systems change model. Remember that AI is an emotionally charged issue. If we as school leaders come at it from the top down, saying, these are the new rules, this is by mandate, then we will unintentionally exacerbate the feelings of insecurity that are already happening in our faculty. But if we approach it by saying, let's get buy-in, let's bring in all the stakeholders, that's more of a bottom-up framework. I think you're going to find that people are a lot more willing to work with you on AI if you take that approach. One other piece of advice. People are more willing to support a change when there is clear messaging about what is not going to change. Part of your role as a change leader is to be a steward of your school's identity and values. The last part of this 3-part answer is to start automating office tasks. As I mentioned in the situation portion, there are a lot of reasons why working with your faculty on this, as important as it is very, very difficult. And there are certain people in your faculty who are going to have strong opinions on this and have their heels dug in as long as they possibly can. So what automation does is it gives you quick wins that you can then leverage. Imagine a faculty member who's fearful about AI, overhearing that a staff member in admissions used to be doing a certain repetitive and mundane task for 20 hours a month, but that's been cut down to 2 hours because of automation. Imagine that with this extra time savings that person has, they've been able to turn their attention toward work that's more meaningful and important and strategic. We believe that planting those stories around and giving people a sense that AI is not the enemy, but is doing real good for real people, is part of how you can change attitudes and lay the foundation for deep and durable systems change.